Hello and welcome back to yet another wrap up. I'm basically here to tell you all about the things that I read in the month of July, and I should start off by mentioning the books that I don't have physical copies of at the moment for one reason or another. So without further ado, let us get into the books because there's so many of them. First off, I'd like to thank Titan Books for sending me a copy of The Bone Garden by Heather Kastner. I don't have a physical copy of it at the moment because I lent it to a friend, as you can tell, because I really liked it. So this is basically a middle grade novel that I would say is perfect for those that enjoyed Neil Gaiman's The Graveyard Book. It's about a girl called Irel who is basically a figment of an evil lady's imagination with a dash of magic and some bone dust. And she basically serves this woman and helps gather bone dust for her to create other things and fulfill a more mysterious purpose that you shall find out more about if you read the novel. I liked this, but I didn't fully love it. I think the atmosphere was beautiful. I think the writing style was really dark and atmospheric, naturally, and very eerie and lyrical, and I really enjoyed that. I thought Irel was just such a lovely protagonist because she was so endearing and it was so easy to really get just sucked right into her drama from the very beginning and just root for her and want for her to succeed. And a lot of what the book deals with is her coming to terms with her identity, because she's kind of real but kind of not really, and she has this abusive figure constantly telling her she's not good enough, she is easily replaceable, she's useless, and so on. So it's just a lot to take in and she's going through a lot. So you just want to take her, give her a blanket, give her some tea and comfort her. And I really like how the book kind of tackles that thing, and I thought it was really smart and touching and well done. But there was a little something missing. I think it's partly because the book was so short that it didn't fully have time to explore everything I would have liked to see it explore. I thought, although there was definitely this attempt to make the quote-unquote villain look really complex, something just didn't work for me, and she still felt a bit like a caricature with a backstory, if that makes sense. So I don't know, I would definitely recommend this as a Halloween read, if I may, because it does have those spooky vibes. I also listened to Maggie Stiefvater's Raven Boys on audio from the library, and I won't talk very much about this because Maggie Stiefvater is not the most beloved in the community, so don't give her too much time. But this is pretty much a booktube classic, a YA classic. If you like trees, angst, fabulism, and all of those things, maybe Dead Welsh Kings and Ley Lines, this is the one for you. I really still enjoy this story and I love the characters and I do like the writing style, but the narrator was just god-awful. Just didn't do it for me. I know one of my friends loves him. These are some of her favorite audiobooks ever to listen to. Just couldn't get into them for the death of me, so I wouldn't maybe recommend the books, but not the audiobooks. I was also lucky enough to read David Yoon's debut, Frankly in Love, coming out in September, I think the 12th over here, if I'm not wrong. I got a copy from work and I read it and I really enjoyed it. This is pretty much a YA contemporary about a boy called Frank whose parents want him to date a Korean girl, a very specific one at that, the daughter of some of their friends. But the thing is, Frank fell in love with a white girl, and the Korean girl his parents want him to be with is dating a Chinese boy. So it's only natural for the two of them to fake date, so their parents are at ease and they can date their respective crushes. Except life is not that easy, so things get complicated, and I shall say no more. I also really enjoyed this without fully loving it, sadly. I think it was a really ambitious debut, but it was trying to do so many things plot-wise. It just was trying to do so much that it was hard for it to do everything well, and it felt like it was just throwing in more things for the sake of them being there instead of focusing on the things that were already going on. I have no better way to explain it, but it did do some some things really well. So I can forgive most of the plot thing because the characters were so well crafted, and you really got to know Frank and to know his friends and his parents and all of those around him, and the character moments were just tugging at my heartstrings, and the dynamics, especially between Frank and his parents, because there's this generational gap dividing them and this cultural gap, because he's very much Korean American, and that's a thing that's reinforced throughout the book, whereas his parents are Korean and somewhat American, question mark. He doesn't really know how they would identify themselves as, and he doesn't really understand the part of themselves that existed before he was born, and he just wishes he got to know his parents more as people than just his parents. And it's so smart and it's so poignant, and the social commentary is so well done, both in regards to the Korean side of his identity and also to the idea of being a Korean American and what that means for him and how society perceives him because of that, and also the American side and also how all these things function together. And his best friend is a black boy, and they're kind of talking about how they didn't used to discuss their identities and their place in the world shaped by those. And it's really smart, and it doesn't feel like a slice of life. I keep saying it feels more like a buffet, because you get to see so many small yet crucial moments of Frank's life. So I would definitely recommend giving this one a shot. Even though it's not perfect, it's one of the strongest debuts I read, and I do think it's a great introduction to the YA scene for David Yoon, and I look forward to anything he does in the future. And now, on to the physical books, because we've rambled enough. So, I very recently read The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta, and this is a debut novel that is YA in verse, and it's pretty much about a queer black boy from London and his experiences growing up. And it's one of the most beautiful, stunning coming-of-age stories I've read in ages. Also, it has drag, so it deals a lot with self-expression and being a queer black person, and it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I don't want to say too much because I don't know how, but if you love the way Elizabeth Acevedo deals with self-expression and using art as a form of that, and also as a form of analyzing your own emotions towards what is happening around you, I think you would really enjoy this. I love the main character. I love the writing style. I love the drag elements, even though they come into play later. I love the family dynamics. I love the friendship dynamics. I just think this is so smart and so well crafted, and I absolutely love it. I also read a poetry collection, which is Somebody Give This Heart a Pen by Sophia Thakur, and this is out in October, 3rd of October. I am sad to say, I will say before saying what I want to say, that I think poetry is one of the most subjective things when it comes to reading. So just take anything I say with a grain of salt. I kind of like this, but that's just it. I had some poems that I really fell in love with, and I can see myself revisiting for ages and ages and ages. But as an overall collection, this just kind of fell short for me. I do think a lot of the poems could resonate with a lot of people, so I'd say if this sounds like something you would be interested in, if you like poetry and whatnot, do give it a shot. It just wasn't necessarily for me. I thought the order the poems were put in felt a bit random at times, and I didn't absolutely love it, but I also think this could have been longer and it would have benefited from that. So that's my critique of everything today, apparently. On to the highs, I read I Was Born for This by Alice Osman. Everyone and their mother loves Alice, but my very good friend G read this and she told me I would love it, and part of what got me to read it was because she asked me to see if I too am getting 5 Seconds of Summer vibes from the band in this, or if she's tripping. She was not tripping, let me tell you. Alas, so this is a dual perspective novel following a fangirl and a member of the band she is obsessed with. And they possibly meet up and their lives are changed forever and whatnot. Maybe not. I don't know. Ready to find out. But I expected this to be a fluffy, like possibly love story, contemporary novel. What I got instead, and I'm very happy about this, is a really smart, poignant analysis of fandom culture and boyband culture and internet culture, and it's just, it's so deep, and there's a lot of diversity in this, which I appreciated. I really, again, I thought I got to know all the characters really well, and I really loved them all, and I got so attached. And I read this towards the beginning of last month, and I'm still thinking about it, and I can't stop, and I think that's a really good sign, and I'm here for anything else Osmond writes in the future. I actually love this so much, and I think what she's doing with analyzing our modern times and the subcultures brought by those is so smart that I ordered her next novel. So really would recommend this with every fiber of my soul. Another middle grade and a second in the series is Arusha and the Song of Death by Roshni Chakshi. This is the sequel to Arusha and the End of Time, which is pretty much Percy Jackson but with girls and Indian mythology and its own voices, and it's wonderful. I keep recommending this series in the shop just because I know so many kids love Percy Jackson and so many grown-ups, which is why I'm pitching it like that to you. So it's got the same sense of humor, it's leveled out funny, and it's got the same everyday life meets mythological elements, and it's just such a good mix. And it's really interesting to learn about different cultures to me, because I'm the whitest white there ever was to white. And I love Aru, and I love the way we get to see an expansion of the world and of the cast of characters. We have some new characters in this that just make it so much better, and we're getting to know more about the possible threats to our world, and it's so smart. I love the way this book specifically deconstructs the idea of a villain, and the way you don't always get to see everyone's full story, and the way we keep attempting to put people into boxes to fit our own purposes, but that's not always the case, and that's also very dangerous. And it's just, I adore this book with every fiber of my being. Please read it. Speaking of series that I love, I read Child of the Prophecy by Juliet Marlier. This is the third book in the Seven Waters series, which is a fantasy series based on Irish mythology and folklore, and it's beautiful, and I love it with my whole heart, and it has wonderful depictions of strong, complex female characters, and I love it very much. And this is a generational series, so every book kind of follows a different generation. I think it's pretty hard to keep that vibe and have a story feel fresh, and yet Juliet Marlier does just that in this, because our protagonist is so different from the previous two protagonists, and I'd say she's the least likable, even though I absolutely hate that term, out of them all. She's the most flawed. She has a very different upbringing, so there are a lot of different forces influencing her actions, and yet I think this was the most fun I've had following the story, just because there's so much room for growth and there's so much more conflict, and I'm so invested, and I love this series, and I ordered all the other books that are companions, and I think it was such a perfect conclusion to the series and wrapped everything up so beautifully that I cried so much. It was hard to do so because the stakes were set very high throughout the three books, but this wrapped it up beautifully. And also it gets proper environmentalist at the end, which I support. I love Juliet, would read anything she ever writes. I've been ordering her backlist. It's a bit of a problem. And finally, we got to the graphic novels. I got my friend Theo a copy of Bloom by Kevin Panetta for her birthday, and then I got this from the library, and I asked her to buddy read it with me, which is very beautiful. And this is pretty much a soft love story about two baking boys, except it's a lot deeper than I thought it was going to be. It's all about growing up and deciding what path you want in life, and also just like soft boys baking and being in love. It's beautiful. Read it. If you love Heartstopper or Check Please, this is perfect for you. I also read I Hate Fairyland Volume 1. This is a series about a girl that ends up in Fairyland, except she can't get out, so she's like 100 years old in an 8-year-old's body, and she hates everything, and I didn't really love this at all, to be honest. think the concept is great, I just didn't like the execution, so I could do without it. I don't know if I'm gonna continue on, but yeah, it was a bit overrated. And finally, I read volume 1 of Patty Walker, aka Hellcat. And this is pretty much just Patty trying to set up an agency that helps powered people find jobs, which is ridiculous, and it's funny, and I love Patsy, and I love the artwork. It's just very much my cup of tea, and I love it, and I would love to continue on with this, even though I don't even know if there's a volume 2 out. But yes, I am very out of breath. That's a lot of books, but thank you very much for watching. Do let me know if you've read any of these, do let me know if you plan on doing it, or just let me know what your favorite read of July was, and I'll see you in my next one.